Promoter Kathy Duvar says that Sergey Kovalev has got no intentions of retiring following his 7th round TKO loss to Elida Alvarez. Well, when fighters lose in this kind of devastating fashion, their feelings on their career can often change from day to day. One day they'll wake up and feel like they want to retire. The next day they'll wake up and feel like they want to continue. And then the next day they feel like they want to retire again. So it will probably take a while for Kovalev to figure out where he's at mentally and what he wants to do next. But I was listening to Boxing Beats and Rhymes videos on this fight. He did a couple videos on it. And he was talking about how Kovalev's power didn't seem to be the same in this fight. It didn't seem to have the same effect on his opponent as it normally does. And I was also talking to Thibaut. He's a French guy I've been talking boxing with for years now. And we were talking about Kovalev's stamina issue. And he says that he don't think Kovalev has a stamina issue. He thinks it's mental. Well, my response was, regardless of what the cause of the stamina issue is, it's still a stamina issue. Yeah? And I think to some degree it was mental. I think to some degree Kovalev's diminished power was also mental. If indeed he did have diminished power. Because what I saw in the fight was a Sergey Kovalev who looked unsure of himself from very early on. As soon as Alvarez came out in the first couple rounds and started cracking Kovalev with solid jabs in the face and knocking his head back, Kovalev's body language did not look good to me. The HBO commentators, to their credit, all picked up on this, particularly Roy Jones Jr. In the 7th round when Kovalev got knocked out, Roy Jones kept on reminding everybody Kovalev's body language didn't look good from the start. And I saw it too. Yeah, the other HBO commentators, Kellerman and Lampley, they were also talking about it. He just did not have the usual look of menace and confidence that we see from Kovalev from early on in the fight. You see, this is why I don't go along with Kathy Duvar's take on it that Kovalev was dominating and it was just a punch out of the blue. No. That's not what happened. I saw a very competitive fight where Kovalev looked uncomfortable, where he was getting hit with very clean punches from early on and he didn't like it. And I think he was probably getting flashbacks from the Andre Ward fights, particularly the rematch, very early on. It's kind of like a mild form of post-traumatic stress disorder, where the last time he felt clean jabs rocking his head back like that in a fight was when he lost. So that can actually have a physical effect on you. You know, that can have a mental effect, and the mind controls the body. So he might have felt that same feeling again that he felt in the Ward fight and associated that with losing. A lot of this goes on in the subconscious. It's not something that a fighter can easily control. And once he started getting that feeling of impending doom, I think it may have drained his energy. And I don't think that's the only factor in the fight. I think Kovalev in general is an on-top fighter. I don't think he's ever been a guy who likes to be in a back and forth battle where he hurts the other guy and the other guy hurts him and Kovalev battles through. I think Kovalev's an on-top fighter and always has been. When someone genuinely is hitting him back and is able to hit him back with authority and have an effect on him, that knocks a lot of the fight out of Sergey Kovalev. I think he's always been that way. And as I say, I think his energy was drained from the fact he was getting hit so much and because he was having flashbacks and he was just in a bad place mentally. And when he came out in that 3rd or 4th round and really stepped on the gas, I didn't see a man who was saying, all right, you little so-and-so, now I'm going to show you what this boxing game is all about. Now I'm going to put it on you. I didn't see somebody come out with a swagger and an arrogance like that. What I saw in Kovalev when he came out in that round and put his foot on the gas, I saw a man having his last throw of the dice. That's what I saw. I saw a man who was actually desperate. Because even though he was going for it and attempting to stamp his authority on the fight, again, his body language and his face did not look like the normal Sergey Kovalev. He looked desperate to me. And he looked even more desperate after Alvarez didn't fall to the floor and Alvarez screamed back at him with defiance and continued to crack him in the face with those hard jabs and right hands. I think Kovalev's tank was running on empty from pretty early on in the fight. Now, people talk about Kovalev having a drinking problem and they talk about Kovalev's age. I mean, Kovalev's only a year older than Alvarez, so I don't really think it's his age. And Kovalev hasn't had many tough fights. I think the issue here was Kovalev's defensive frailties, obviously, because he was fighting a man in Alvarez who came well prepared, whose game plan was good, who was faster than Kovalev, who was defensively sound, who had a better jab than Kovalev. Again, that's something Kovalev's not really used to. Andre Ward's got a good jab, but Andre Ward don't have as long arms as Alvarez, and Andre Ward's not as fast. Don't have as fast a jab as Alvarez either. So that was probably the best jab that Kovalev has encountered as a professional. So we got to give Alvarez credit from a technical point of view for the things that he did right. He did things in there which other Kovalev opponents were not as capable of doing. So let's give him credit for how he was able to secure this victory. But as I say, on Kovalev's side, I just don't think he was in a great place mentally, and that contributed to his stamina issue. But, he's probably never been a guy who's had great stamina, to be honest. People talk about the Hopkins fight. Hopkins was damn near 50 years old, right? Hopkins fights at a snail's pace. Against Alvarez, Kovalev was forced to throw more punches. Yeah, he was forced to. He couldn't just fight at a leisurely pace and go at his own speed. No, he was forced to fight at a higher pace because Alvarez was outboxing him from the outside and he was buzzing him. It's not like he was some feather-fisted fighter on the outside just annoying Kovalev. No, he was knocking his head back when he was hitting him. So Kovalev had to do something. He had to up the tempo and try and stamp his authority on the fight. So that also took it out of him. He doesn't normally have to do that in fights. And he certainly doesn't normally have to do that in fights where he's getting hit hard and often. So it was a combination of different factors, I think, which led to Kovalev's demise. But the overall issue with him, other than his defense, because his defense has never been great. He's never been that hard to hit, Kovalev. It's just his punching power is so tremendous that he keeps people honest. And they don't want to come at him because, if they miss, they're going to get hit extremely hard. So other than his defense, mentally, Sergey Kovalev is not the strongest guy. As I've said several times already, I think he's an on-top fighter. That don't mean he's a rubbish fighter. He's still a fantastic fighter. Or he has been, at least in the past. I just think mentally he's not as robust as some of the other guys out there. So whether he can come back, I'm not sure. I was talking to Tebow about whether Kovalev can come back, and he was talking about Klitschko because he's always been a big Klitschko fan. He said, well, Klitschko managed to address his mental issues because earlier on in Klitschko's career, he had stamina issues as well. And he believes that they were down to Klitschko, Vladimir Klitschko, being anxious in the ring. And that anxiousness led to him getting tired quickly. And I think there's something to that. But the thing about Klitschko is that Klitschko didn't really have a reputation as a very arrogant fighter, as someone who is a megalomaniac, someone who wouldn't listen to trainers. Klitschko never really had that reputation. Whereas Kovalev does have that reputation, not just from John David Jackson, but even from Abel Sanchez, who trained him earlier on in his career. Abel Sanchez went as far as saying, nobody can train Kovalev. He's untrainable. Because the guy is basically a megalomaniac. He doesn't listen to anybody. He thinks he knows better than all the trainers. And when he loses, he blames everybody around him except for himself. So how is Kovalev going to improve? How is he going to get over his potential mental issues and his potential mental scars if he's not willing to look himself in the mirror with honesty? If he's just going to continue to blame everybody else? He's going along with what Kathy Duva's saying, that he was dominating the fight and just got caught with a punch out of the blue. If he honestly believes that, then his career is done. Vladimir Klitschko is a very highly educated man. I believe he has some kind of qualification in psychology. I could be wrong there. But Klitschko must have looked at his own mindset. He must have, and tried to think to and thought to himself, you know, how can I improve myself mentally? How can I strengthen myself mentally so I don't get so nervous and anxious? He must have looked at what people were saying and you know, realized that, yeah, my anxiousness is what's making me tired. Do you reckon Kovalev's doing that? Maybe he is, but again, judging by what previous trainers have said about him, he's not really much of an introspective guy. He's more of someone who tries to blame everybody else for what goes wrong and not himself so much. You know, he did, to be fair to him, say that he had to stop drinking the vodka and all that. But, you know, the rest of it, he doesn't want to take responsibility for, which is his defense, the mental side of his game and all that. And as I mentioned previously, I saw the writing on the wall for Kovalev from early on in the fight. I mean, I didn't necessarily know he was going to lose, but I knew from early on in the fight that he did not look comfortable and he did not look like the usual Sergey Kovalev, because he was getting hit hard and often early, and he's not used to that. It just changed his whole body language. Roy Jones Jr. noticed it. Max Kellerman and Jim Lampley, to a lesser degree, also noticed it. And Roy Jones Jr. reminded everybody of it in the 7th round, and after the fight he said, listen, Kovalev's whole body language didn't look right in this fight. You know? Anyway, we'll see where Kovalev goes from here, if he can come back. He is 35 years of age. He hasn't been in loads of wars. He hasn't. This fight against Alvarez is probably the fight where he's taken the most punishment out of any other fight. In the Ward fight, he really didn't take that much punishment. He took some jabs here and there in the 2 Ward fights, and a nice right hand, and obviously a lot of body shots. But it's not like he was in the Thriller and Manila or anything like that. Kovalev's relatively well preserved physically. He hasn't taken that much headshots in his career. And in fact, thinking back to the Isaac Chilemba fight, Kovalev looked uncomfortable in that fight too, when he was getting his head rocked back early in the fight by Isaac Chilemba jabs, and his stamina looked suspect there too. I think he soon realized Chilemba had nothing in his right hand though. And when he realized that, he was like, okay, maybe there's nothing to worry about. But them times when he was getting his head rocked back with a jab, Kovalev's body language, come to think of it, changed in the Chilemba fight too. So I just think he's not that mentally robust. Anyway, yeah, let me know how you feel about Kovalev in the comment section below. Can he come back? Can he address his mental issues? Are his mental issues linked to his stamina issues? I think there are so many different factors going on here, people. You know, interlinked. So, yeah, let me know how you feel. It's happening. I'm out.